What's up, everyone? I'm Agent Orange. Welcome back to another episode of The Orange Rewind, the show where I pick one of my favorite game-changing tracks from the history of techno and house music, give its history, chop it up in the studio to see how it was made, then give an interview with the artist at the end of the video. Stay tuned for that. Today's artist is Thomas Schumacher, and the track is When I Rock. I've been buying Thomas's records since the 90s, and I'm super excited to have him on the show today. Let's go. Germany, 1997. The techno sound was purest until Thomas Schumacher came on the scene with his big, bold, loud, and uniquely hip-hop infused masterpiece, When I Rock. Released on Bush Records in 1997, it didn't really start to get noticed right away by the masses. But that all changed once Carl Cox got a hold of it and started to play it every weekend. It fit his style perfectly, banging, clubby, dark, with loads of attitude. His hype blends with When I Rock won crowds over DJ set after DJ set and got people loving the track. It started to climb and it didn't stop until it became a global hit. Its iconic bass line came from a Waldorf Pulse. Just like the main synth line in Umek's classic Lanacore. You can check out my video on Lanacore in this series from the link on the screen. The vocal from When I Rock came from a tape recording of a concert by US rap group The Roots from Philadelphia. What's up, Josh, Jeff, and Will, and Becca? A friend and I were driving to a night out at a club when my friend popped in a cassette tape from a live concert by The Roots. He thought to himself, what a cool sample. Once he put it all together, it was something unique, fresh, and brand new. Once you heard it, you felt something different, a new kind of attitude in such a dark techno track. Remixes for When I Rock came about a year after, the iconic mixes from Johannes Heel and an electro gem from Anthony Rother. It was released more recently on the Arts label, with remixes from label owner Emmanuel and Thomas Schumacher himself, with an updated version. When I Rock mixes have been featured in sets from Emily Lenz, Panpot, Helena Huff, Nyreich, Joris Voorn, Luke Slater, Loco&Jam, Spartak, Lucas Freire, and T78. Thomas Schumacher, Berlin-based DJ and producer, makes light of his status as one of the most championed long-standing artists in techno. When he's not guiding clubbers through oceans of sound, Thomas reaches them via his productions on labels like Drum Code and his own Electric Ballroom. On Beatport, Thomas's remix of the classic The House of House became his third #1 hit. Now hang on for an interview with Thomas Schumacher.
Rewind.
Don't forget to check out the other videos in this series at this link. Hi Thomas, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for the invitation. Good to be here.
When I Rock came out in 1997. Can you rewind a little bit before that and tell us how you arrived to DJing techno and 1997?
All right. So for me, it kind of, obviously, after all these years, there's this kind of this event or this year where you think it all started. And that was for me actually in 1986 when I went to see Depeche Mode in concert in my hometown of Bremen. And I was already, I had started to listen to Depeche Mode in 1984, so I started collecting their records. I love music in general. I was just very curious, but this kind of the electronic edge, that really got to me. And then I watched them live and it blew me away. And the next day I remember, I was like, I have to be able to do that. I have to figure out how to do that. Little did I know what kind of a challenge that was in 1986 as a student with hardly any money, no knowledge, no internet. But I persisted. I went to flea markets, started to buy like old analog gear. And I remember my first computer was an Atari ST 1024 because it had 1.24 megabyte RAM. and that was around, I think I bought the computer in 1989. And that was the year where I started going to clubs in my hometown. And we were lucky. We had a club with a very progressive DJ, and he usually would play funk and soul, but then all of a sudden he was starting to play acid house. And when I heard that, I was like, okay, that's also very interesting. So I had this industrial Depeche Mode synth pop thing, and then acid house, and it all came together. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna bring that together. And so I started buying records, organizing my own events as well, because the few clubs in my hometown, they were not interested in that by that time. But that was 1991. I remember we started hosting our own events, and from the first event, we were always sold out because techno was the new thing then, and so I just kept at it. I finished school and decided not to go to uni, and just still living with my mom, and just wanted to use that time to learn more, develop my skills. And the first record I released was actually in 1993 already. That was the first one, together with a partner, and from there, I went on, and I think in 1996 I signed the deal with Bush Records. The year later, then When I Rock came about, and I just did on my Patreon page. I did this video where I'm telling the story behind When I Rock, because it's such an interesting story. But I think what made the track stand out was the combination of typical elements from hip hop, even a rap. Right. And then the techno stuff, and for me, it was totally natural, because in the 80s, I listened to hip hop, as we all did, I listened not only to hip hop, I also listened to Depeche Mode or to The Smiths or The Cure. I was just into music, but it was something, what I always loved about hip hop was that this is music so deeply rooted in sampling. And I love sampling. I still do up to this day. And When I Rock was just a testament to that. I threw it all together, and the track just happened. I think took me 2 days or something.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So what synth did you use for that big bass line, and what DAW were you using at the time? Atari, you said, was Cubase with it, or?
No, that was by 1997. I was using
that was
the predecessor to Logic, which was called Imagic. Mm-hmm. And then later Apple bought that company, and the synthesizer, it's still here.
Oh,
right here. There's the Waldorf Pulse Plus.
Wow. All right, cool.
And if we had a keyboard now attached, which I don't have, but I still know this one is the bass line for When I Rock.
Oh wow! All right.
Yeah. So, that was that. But also, I just the interesting bit is because many people think that. When it was released, it was an instant hit, but it was not a hit at all. It kind of flopped first because I think many DJs were not ready for that. I remember in the mid 90s, there were so many purists, and that track was anything but pure. So it took a while, and it took for Carl Cox to pick it up. And I remember all of a sudden, someone called me and said, "Do you know Carl's? He played it on his radio show on BBC Radio." I was like, "What?" And that changed everything. And he played it in the sets, and he must have played it for a year or something. And that turned it into a huge hit, but also it really changed the projection of my career. Because up until then, I was playing a lot in Germany, which had a big scene, but all of a sudden, Australia, Japan, everywhere, because the track became so popular and because it stood out,
Yeah, it definitely stood out. I mean, there were a lot of tracks that came after it that may have sounded a bit like it, but when it came out, it was definitely pioneering, I would say. And Carl Cox is definitely where I first heard it. Where when he was playing it in the probably like '98, I think I first heard it. Yeah,
I was happy when I had the chance to tell him when I met him ages ago. Like I really owe him, because he believed in the track, just like the label owner back then. They all took a risk, and I love that. And I think something I learned from it: take risks in life, especially as an artist. Don't play it safe.
The remixes, I know Johannes Heel did a remix and Anthony Rother. Yep. That was like a yellow vinyl. Was the original also a yellow?
No, original was black. And then
Bush,
we had those remixes, which I also really loved and still love. I think both are timeless remixes. And then we did one more round of remixes in 2018, kind of commemorate 20 years on Arts Records, which is the label I really appreciate. And that was fun for me to go back, dig out the old samples and revisit that track. And was it? And I still either play the original or one of the remixes in my sets all the time.
I was playing the remixes quite a bit. Your remix and Emmanuel's also.
Emmanuel's
very hard. It's very hard.
Yeah. This kick drum is just like, man, okay. But I love it because when I heard the first version of his remix and then the breakbeat kicked in, I was like, oh, I love breakbeats. And the combination with hard techno is just really, really exciting.
Agreed. Where did the vocal sample, the rap and vocal samples come from?
Yeah, that's the other part of the story. So I was into hip hop in the 80s and I had lots of friends that were into hip hop. But it was already 90s and we were all listening to techno usually. But I remember driving in a car and a friend of mine was like, you want to listen to some hip hop? I said, yeah, always. And he had a tape there and we played it. And I don't know if you know Tony Touch.
Of course, it's from New York, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So it was a Tony Touch tape. And we were just listening. And as they do, it's freestyle. So you have a DJ and an MC. And I just realized at one point the DJ stopped the record and the MC kept rapping. And then I heard this, when I rock, don't disturb me. I was like, that's dope. Can I have the tape? And I brought it back home, sampled it, recorded When I Rock. And that was, I think, 3 years later. I got a call from a publisher and he was like, well, Thomas, there is a problem with this sample from When I Rock. I was like, now? He said, yeah. He said, you have to call someone in the United States. I said, who am I calling? He said, just this number. We got it through it was Warner Chappelle, my publisher. We just got it through our affiliates in America. And I called the number and didn't even understand who was there. And it was just an interesting conversation. It was someone who had never heard techno. And like fully into hip hop. I was like, what did you do with the vocal? And he noticed how much work I put into it because the original tempo was maybe 90 BPM and stuff. And I explained it all to him and he was so impressed. And then he said, look, I'm the producer of The Roots and you sampled from The Roots. And I was like, shit, really? I said, yes. I said, am I in trouble now? And he said, no, you're not, Thomas. And it was a great story. You know, they were all cool about it. And in the end, instead of taking me to court or something, they included When I Rock on their album. It's there. It's called Thirsty. And I was just like the best, you know, what a cool way of dealing with that. I felt really seen and heard and I felt like they're the coolest and I still think like that, you know, and I met them a couple of years later as well. And
cool.
They always called me the techno dude. Yeah. Nice story. I really
yeah, definitely. Yeah. And the scratching, was that you or was that from the same tape or?
No, exactly. That's another part of the record. All these typical, like the scratch samples or all the hip hop samples are from a record. I bought a couple of hip hop DJ, you know, for hip hop DJs, these vinyls, like
the battle records, yeah.
Battle, exactly. And that's where I sampled that all from. What I did though is that moment where the needle jumps over the whole record. That's what I did myself at home.
Oh, okay, yeah, right before the.
Of course, I ruined one of the needles there.
Did you feel you had something special on your hands when you completed it, or was it like just another track you had done, or?
No, it was not like another track I had done because I hadn't done something like that at all, and so I was just happy that I did it. It felt like something that had to come out, and I was really just curious how people would react to it, and so. But then again, yeah, it was not instant gratification. It took a while for people to warm up, but in the end, it's just beautiful how normal it is nowadays when people talk about it and they play it. But I'm always like, man, that was so not normal. Find any other record from 1997 with any kind of hip hop element, let alone a rap part, you know? And
right.
So, yeah, but sometimes you're, but that's what I mean, you know, when you have something in you as an artist, don't worry about whether it's along the lines of what's been done or just go for it, you know? And I think that it's always a good thing.
That's great advice. Where was your favorite crowd reaction that you've ever witnessed to it? And was it during one of your own DJ sets or someone else's?
Oh my God. Favorite crowd reaction. My favorite reaction was my own reaction this year when Carl Cox did a DJ set from his home. And I think it was a Bush Records where the track was released on special. And he played When I Rock. And I was sitting in front of my computer and I was going for it. It's like, yes, Carl, thank you. I love you. And you know his energy as well, you know. And you could tell he still loves the track, the way he played it and all the stuff that he did. So that was a good moment. It's still up until this day. What I love is when I play it now, obviously now there's another new generation in front of me. I've seen so many come and go, and still all of a sudden they discover When I Rock, either the original or one of the remixes, and then I play it, and it is still so recognizable, you know. And then they come up like, "Oh my God, Thomas, When I Rock," and often I hear, "I wasn't even born when that was released." I said, "Yes, young fella, I was."
That's cool. Do you have any current or upcoming projects that you'd like to talk about?
Yes.
You mentioned the Patreon.
The Patreon is just something close to my heart because I'm working together here with my partner in life and in business, Caitlin. And I think it was already in March when she heard about it, and she said to me, "Thomas, we should look into this. This is a great way of actually connecting with like-minded people." It was the community idea that Caitlin really saw in that. And she said, "Look, we're never really happy with Facebook, Instagram, because we're doing something there that we shouldn't be doing there, because you know, I said Facebook exists, you know, it's for advertisement and for them to make money and collect our data." And thankfully, Caitlin really, she just, "Come on, let's do this, you know, let's prepare it." And they have a headquarter here in Berlin. So we started to talk to them about it, and they were like excited. They said there are hardly any techno artists on Patreon right now. It's popular in the States, but here in Europe, it's so new, the whole concept.
Okay.
And then we got really excited, and it took a while to prepare it and to get our head around what do we want. And for us, the community idea was the most important part. So you can have different tiers on Patreon. Yep. We said we have one tier, and it's that cheap. It's €5 or dollars per month. And then you just get tutorials, you get DJ sets, you get vinyl time, everything that we love to do anyway. And we just want to share it with the people, and it's working extremely well. We have this Discord server, which is like a forum. Mm-hmm. Every day we hang out there and we exchange points of view, and people post links to new plugins, and just like that, we have built a community, and it's growing every week. And it's just really cool, and it's respectful, and you can tell people feel like they're part of something that is genuine, and it's also a safe space. I never feel great sharing anything on social media, I must say. So I just love the exchange there, you know, and I meet a lot of curious people and crazy ideas. I love it, you know, like lots of young producers. Mm-hmm. And I have such respect for them, how in a short period of time, to what kind of level they get their productions. I listened to their music as well, obviously, and was like, that's amazing. It took me much longer to be able to produce even remotely as professional. And so,
what is your favorite heavy metal band?
Oh gosh, here we go. Heavy metal. His name, he passed away. Lemmy Kilmister. What was he?
Motorhead.
Motorhead. I think Motorhead was always the ones that I personally thought, I mean, that was just awesome. So Motorhead.
Nice.
Because of Lemmy, obviously, as well. Like, what a character, huh?
He was. That's a great answer. Can you feel it?
Can I feel it? Yes, I can. Absolutely. And the more I allow myself to feel it, the better it is for myself and for the people around me. And I think for me, when I hear that question as a man, that was not something that was part of when I was raised up, to be honest. You know, I mean, my parents were kind and all of that, but to encourage me to feel and show that, I had to figure that out myself. And it's still a process, but yeah, feeling best way with a heart, you know, and not to overthink.
Cool, man. Thanks a lot. Right. Take care.
Pleasure. You too. Huh?
Ciao.
Stay safe.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that episode of the Orange Rewind. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to hit subscribe, and don't forget to drop a comment below with song suggestions for future episodes. I'm your host, Agent Orange. Until next time, stay young, love techno.